Gettysburg, one of the most pivotal battles of the Civil War, was a turning point for the Union Army and significantly increased the Union's chances of winning the war. At this point in July 1863, many Union and Confederate lives had been lost, and the Confederates were on the offensive. However, the losses were about to increase dramatically in a single battle. On the first day of the Battle of Gettysburg, July 1st, 1863, the 26th North Carolina Infantry Regiment triumphed by completing their goal on the first day by pushing the Union out of Herbst Woods, concluding in a victory for the 26th. However, the tragedy of the devastating losses suffered by the 26th would greatly impact their ability to fight the rest of the battle. But the losses were even more devastating on their families and their small hometowns back in North Carolina, as well as other parts of the country, stripping them of entire generations of young men, showing a true tragedy of the Civil War. In 1861, the 26th North Carolina Infantry Regiment was established. The men, coming from the central and western portions of the state, were trained at Camp Crabtree, 3 miles from Raleigh. Many brothers, sons, fathers, and neighbors went and fought with each other. In Caldwell County, many of the men were from these families.
Coffees total 62, Estes 24, Setzer 17, Holloways 5, Suderits 12, Phillips 6, Tuttle 6, Moore 11, Sherrill 16 family members in those units combined.
In the 26th North Carolina, there were 3 sets of twins, including the Phillips brothers and the Townsell brothers. The unit was originally commanded by Zebulon Baird Vance, who would later become the North Carolina wartime governor. His successor, Colonel Henry King Burgoyne, occasionally referred to as the Boy Colonel, due to his young age, took over the regiment in August 1861. The regiment's first engagement was at New Bern, North Carolina, and then in the summer of 1862, they joined up with the Army of Northern Virginia. May 1863, the Confederates have just won the Battle of Chancellorsville, defeating the Army of the Potomac. General Robert E. Lee knew that he must try to invade the North again. With General Lee's army in Union territory, General Meade's army shadowed Lee to make sure he did not advance on Washington, D.C., or attack Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. This led the armies to meet in the town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. When the Confederates arrived in southern Pennsylvania, men under General A.P. Hill headed into Gettysburg looking for supplies, but ran into Union cavalry. General A.P. Hill, as well as the Union cavalry, called for reinforcements. After a couple of hours, the reinforcements arrived and the battle began. As the afternoon passed, the 26th North Carolina had not been deployed yet. Finally, they were called upon to go east to attack Brigadier General Meredith's and Colonel Biddle's Union brigades. The 843 men of the 26th North Carolina took the far left of Brigadier General James Pettigrew's line. The 26th North Carolina's line of advance took them straight to the line of the 24th Michigan, an elite unit led by Colonel Henry A. Murrow and created by Michigan Governor Austin Blair to honor the city of Detroit. One of the initial lucky shots from a man from the 24th Michigan knocked the hat off an officer in the 26th North Carolina. The officer then yelled,
"Give them hell, boys."
As the 26th passed Willoughby Run, they kept moving through what Assistant Surgeon George Underwood described.
It seemed that the bullets were as thick as hailstones in a storm.
After intense fighting, Murrow pulled his men back to a second line deeper in Herbst Woods, and on their fallback, many wounded Union men said they heard the 26th saying,
"Here are those damned black hat fellows again."
Captain W.A. McCreary, Pettigrew's adjutant general, said to Burgoyne,
"The 26th has covered itself with glory today."
Meanwhile, the 26th color bearer was struck down, so McCreary took up the colors, but he was shot in the heart in seconds. Lieutenant George Wilcox of Company H, a man who grew up in Moore County, North Carolina, also took up the regimental flag, advancing just feet before falling down. The 26th North Carolina would go on to lose 10 different color bearers in 10 minutes of fighting. Wilcox would go on to survive the war, but his brother, Robert Wilcox, would be captured and spend the last 2 years of the war in prison. His older brother, Harmon Wilcox, would be shot on the first day of Gettysburg and would die a day later. George carried a piece of Harmon's hair until his death. He was the only color bearer to survive. Men were falling left and right, but as the fighting continued, Burgoyne began yelling Pettigrew's words of praise for morale. Then, as Burgoyne handed Private Honeycutt of Company B the regimental flag, Burgoyne was shot. After the boy colonel was shot, Lieutenant Colonel John Randolph Lane took control of the regiment. Lane immediately ordered Captain J.C. McLaughlin of Company K2.
Close your men quickly to the left, and I'm going to give them the bayonet.
The 26th flag bearers were falling again and again. Lieutenant Blair of Company K noted,
No man can take those colors and live.
As the 24th Michigan fell back to Cemetery Ridge, Sergeant Charles M. McConnell shot Lane in the back of the neck. Finally, on Cemetery Ridge, the 24th Michigan made a final stand against the 26th. Thomas Parrott, a member of Company G in the 26th North Carolina, said about the engagement, The field is ours, but at a fearful cost. Although the 26th triumphed over the 24th, taking the field and forcing them back to form a new Union line, the tragedy of the enormous losses that they suffered prevented them from participating on the second day and supporting other struggling Confederate troops. The 26th North Carolina suffered a loss of over 600 men on the first day of Gettysburg. In Company F of the 26th, only one man survived, Sergeant Hudspeth. On the second day, the 26th North Carolina rested. On the third day,
They call the roll, there are no coffees. The damage has been done to them.
On the third day, the 26th was lined up for Pickett's charge. When there was a brief pause in artillery fire, General Pettigrew said,
For the honor of the good old North State, forward.
As they got within 40 yards of the Union line, they were demolished. Daniel Thomas of Company E later wrote, The 26th, now exposed to front and enfilade fire, there was no alternative but to retreat. During Pickett's charge, the 26th North Carolina would lose another 8 color bearers. The 26th suffered over 879 casualties during the Battle of Gettysburg. The battle ended in a Union victory, but thousands of men died in Pickett's charge, as well as the other 2 days. The losses are shown by this Raleigh newspaper. In another account, William J. Lambert in Company E writes, I have seen 3 or 4 of our company. There is no doubt but there is many more wounded or prisoners, and perhaps some killed, but I have not been able to learn particulars. In the small counties and towns of North Carolina, tragedy ensued. Entire generations of young men were wiped out at the cost of a single battle, crippling the communities where they came from. Many families lost brothers, husbands, and fathers. This regiment contained 3 sets of twins, in which 5 out of the 6 perished at Gettysburg. The twins from the Phillip and Townsell families all died. In Ashe County, they saw a population decline of 9.35%, or 821 people. All of this shows true tragedies not only for soldiers, but for their families, towns, and communities at home. The tragic losses suffered by the 26th North Carolina at Gettysburg are shared by other regiments around the country. The South would have 1/4 of its men of fighting age die during the Civil War. One regiment, the 1st Minnesota, suffered an 82% casualty rate on the second day of Gettysburg when they were attacked by the men from Alabama. The 5th New Hampshire would go into the Civil War with 1,200 men, but after the Gettysburg Battle, they would have only 300 men left. The state of Mississippi would have to spend 1/5 of its budget on artificial limbs for injured soldiers during the Civil War. The states of North Carolina and Virginia would have over 60,000 deaths during the Civil War. The state of New York would have almost 40,000 deaths. In all, an estimated 1.5 million casualties would rake the United States, leaving families devastated. The 26th North Carolina's ferocious engagement against the 24th Michigan at Gettysburg was one of the bloodiest engagements between 2 regiments in the entire Civil War. On the first day, the 26th North Carolina was able to push the 24th Michigan out of Herbst Woods, forcing them to fall back into other Union lines. But between this and Pickett's charge, only 80 of the more than 800 men that went into the Battle of Gettysburg came out unhurt, devastating the small communities of our old North State.